They are people without problems that trouble them, or perhaps they have failed to solve their problems if they exist. So, they involve themselves in the lives and issues of others, appointing themselves as experts and emerging in droves from every direction. They roll up their sleeves and begin repeating their stereotypical theories and philosophies, convincing people that by applying these theories, they will not only find a way out of their crises, but also discover a rosy life waiting for them on the other side, ready to embrace them with open arms. They claim that this rosy life was only waiting for them to reach out and open the door that stands between them and it. As if the depressed, according to these experts, have lived their lives deprived of happiness by their own will and choice. If only these experts had left those in crisis and depression at that point and stopped there. But no, after the failure of their theories and philosophies, they began to devise other methods to convince people that they themselves are the cause of their crises. They might even go on to accuse them of being the cause of disasters happening all over the world. Thus, they try to brainwash the poor recipient who sits in front of screens, watching them with a sullen face, heaping accusations upon himself, after being convinced by these optimistic experts with their false theories that he is the main reason behind the deterioration of everything in his life. The poor soul becomes more miserable and sullen, having initially tried hard to apply what he heard from these experts and to reach out to open that supposed door standing between him and happiness. But he found no happiness, nor did he even find that imaginary door. The more he listened to or watched these experts, the more his misery grew. Like that poor soul who lashes out at himself every time he listens to them, he believes they never make mistakes in what they broadcast to people and that they speak with absolute certainty. Strangely, you find these experts always so optimistic that it makes you suspect they are either actors or taking happiness pills. They always appear to us speaking with unwavering enthusiasm, revealed by their tone of voice and body language, dressed in the finest clothes, with bright, cheerful decor behind them as they stand in front of cameras. They almost seem to float in the air from the intensity of their joy while delivering their passionate speeches. The scene is completed by a large audience sitting in front of them to add a sense of credibility, with sharp applause following certain phrases from time to time. However, the result of all this in reality is not a rosy world at all, nor even a reduction in depression cases. On the contrary, the result is a terrible and unprecedented increase in depression cases and, unfortunately, even suicides in significant numbers. This raises suspicion and calls into question the dubious relationship between the increase in the number of these experts and the rise in depression cases. Don't these experts look at the faces of people on the street, or do they not follow the news of daily incidents to know the truth before spouting their theories and philosophies that are only applicable in their virtual world? This is how Aseel poured out her thoughts in a comment on a post on one of the social media pages where the owner, the expert, announced the release of his new book. Then she tossed her phone aside in frustration. The expert's page was managed by someone else due to his lack of full availability all the time. However, the expert's instructions were that no negative comment on his page should be deleted without referring to him personally. Indeed, the person managing the page contacted the expert and informed him of the comment Aseel had added. The expert instructed him to leave it as it was and that he would respond to it himself later, It didn't take long for Aseel's comment to garner a massive amount of likes and supportive comments agreeing with her viewpoint, as well as a fair share of attacks from supporters of the expert. The expert himself read all the supportive and attacking comments and then decided not to delay his response any longer. He wrote and said, "Who told you, madam, that these optimistic experts are without problems? How do you know that perhaps they have indeed gone through severe crises that have ravaged their lives, and after those crises passed, they took upon themselves the burden of guiding others and helping them as much as they could to navigate their crises safely and not stumble as they once did? They have chosen the highest goal instead of curling up around themselves and ruminating on sorrows. As for the advice they give to people, each recipient should take what suits their situation and try to apply it optimally as it fits their circumstances. A prescription might work for one and fail for another. If the prescription fails, it doesn't mean the advisor was wrong, nor does it mean the recipient was wrong, of course. The recipient should then know that that prescription is not for them, and they should try another prescription, and then another, and so on until they reach what they hope for. They should not despair even if all prescriptions fail them, for who knows, perhaps this recipient themselves will come up with a new prescription that saves them and then becomes a reason to save others later, thus leading the way. As for these experts you are biased against, madam, they offer people more than one path according to the knowledge available to them and through the experiences they have gained, and none of them claims perfection. We all learn every day from each other to take each other's hands to the shore of salvation. These experts, madam, only illuminate the path for the recipient, and it is up to the recipient to see it. The recipient has a pivotal role that is more important than the role of the therapist, and they will not emerge from their crisis by relying entirely on external help without their own active participation. When we throw a life buoy to someone who is about to drown, they must cling to it well, and we must pull them to the shore of salvation with all our strength. If they do not grab the life buoy with both hands and remain in their place with their hands tied without doing anything, the circumstances may not always allow, or the time may not always be sufficient for someone to jump into the water to rescue them from certain drowning. And what do you say, madam, about cases where someone did indeed jump into the water and try to save that drowning person, but the drowning person, with all their strength, kept slipping from the rescuer's hands to drown and refused any attempt to save them, even trying hard to drown the rescuer with them? Then let us assume, for argument's sake, that these experts represent and appear to us with a fake smile and enthusiasm. Is that better? Or should they appear to us slapping their cheeks, tearing their clothes, and wailing with an audience also, as per your request, weeping and wailing? Which of the two scenes inspires optimism and which inspires depression? As for the increase in depression cases, we certainly cannot deny it, but it is unfair to blame the therapist. If we want real treatment, we must identify the real causes. Our goal is not to punish the perpetrator and whip them, of course, but to help them get rid of an affliction that they themselves may overlook and not realize is the cause that hinders them. These optimistic experts are not isolated from society. They are fully aware of what is happening in society, and they also suffer when they see people's faces on the street frowning, as it reflects the magnitude of the burdens placed on their shoulders. They are also fully aware of the increase in suicide cases and have exhausted their voices in alerting and educating people to pay attention to those around them if they approach that circle. These experts, madam, did not cause the increase in the number of depressed people, but the number of these experts increased after the number of depressed people increased. The increase in the number of bakeries, for example, is not intended to increase the number of hungry people or the number of people dying of hunger among the people. The opposite is entirely true, meaning that the increase in the number of people in need of bread leads to an increase in the number of bakeries, if we may use the analogy. Aseel later read the expert's response to her comment and pondered what was said. She was well aware that her comment was illogical in some points, but when she wrote it, she couldn't write anything other than what she wrote. Like all humans, she knows right from wrong by nature, but sometimes some fail to choose correctly, and the motive is often pure emotion devoid of any logic, so things get mixed up. We may not realize at the time of committing the mistake all those explanations and complexities, but it is certain that when we recall what we did, especially if the action was wrong, we then realize the wrongness of our action, and we also realize at that time our motives behind that action, and those motives are the justification we give ourselves to silence the voice of our conscience, or the justification we give to others to be then an implicit apology for the wrong we did to them.